morning, my name is Lisa Hanasono. I'm from Purdue University, and this is the G.I.F.T. session, Great Ideas for Teaching Speech. I just presented, or I am presenting, a activity that's called A Closer Look, Deconstructing and Reconstructing Racial Representations. And what it does is it tries to challenge students to more critically consume media messages in the way in which race is represented in popular types of magazines and other types of media. First taught this activity in an Intro to Asian American Studies class, and so I'll use some of my experiences with that tailored into here. So as a reminder, as our society is becoming increasingly diverse, unfortunately I don't think it's necessarily represented as well in the media. And so this activity challenges students to take a more critical look in consuming media messages. Oftentimes I think they're just sitting at the rec reading through a magazine and enjoying how to lose weight or how to get a flatter belly, or they're sitting in front of the TV and they're just watching TV and not really thinking about the ways in which groups of people are being represented. So this is what we're really challenging them to do. I'm focusing on race, but you can focus on gender, you can focus on age, you can focus on a variety of different things. So what I do is I first tell them the topic. We're looking at racial representation in the media, and then I randomly divide them into 4 groups. So count them off, number 1 through 4, and then I break them into 4 different groups. And I tell them that each group is going to be specialist. You're going to look at the ways in which this particular race is represented in a form of media. So one group might look at African Americans, one group might look at Asians and Asian Americans, one group might look at Latinos, Latina Americans, or Latino Latinas, and then the last group may look at Native Americans. So you can really pick it up. You can change it up. So one group may look at women, one group may look at men, one group may look at children and elderly, etc. So you can really pick that up and kind of switch that up as you see fit. Then what I do is I tell them, okay, each group, you're looking at the ways in which your particular race that you've been assigned has been represented in this form of media. I'm going to give each of you a magazine. You're going to have 5 minutes, and I want you to literally look through it. Anytime your particular group is represented, I want you to tear it out and get a stack of images. You've got 5 minutes, go. What I do is I typically pick magazines that are mainstream because I feel like students relate to them and that they've seen them, but you can mix it up and pick special interest magazines if you want to add a different flair to the conversation. I typically try to pick magazines that are different. So I pick ones that cater toward men's interests, ones that like Cosmo that go to women's, a Time or some sort of business-oriented magazine, and then I typically pick some sort of like trashy magazine because my students love that. I don't know why, but it's always their favorite. So so that's what I do, and they get 5 minutes, and they're really quickly looking through here, tearing things out. 5 minutes is over, and then what I do is I have each group present. I have them talk about 3 different things. The first thing is the quantity. So how often was your particular group represented? And I ask them to pick, tell me how many images in relation to how many pages. And I will tell you, when I first did this activity in my Intro to Asian American Studies class, I had one group that had, I think, 4 pictures out of an entire magazine of 200 pages. And pages have multiple pictures. So it was one of those things where my students had that aha moment of, oh my goodness, it's not just a misrepresentation, but it's a lack of representation, and this is something that's intriguing that they never had noticed before. So the first is just quantity. The second really takes it a step further and looks at the nuances, and I ask them, how are these groups being represented? Are they perpetuating stereotypes? If they are, in what ways? What stereotypes are they perpetuating and how? Or are they resisting these stereotypes? And if they are, what are they doing to try to resist these particular racial stereotypes? And so I'll have groups talk about that. And then the last thing, which is kind of a wild card question, is I ask them to explain, do you think the pictures that you found in here in this magazine are representative of other types of mainstream magazines? Because someone could make the argument that, Time magazine is catered to this demographic, and so they probably wouldn't have this group because of this or that. Who knows? And so I have them talk about that. So after each group goes, you kind of get this idea of how these groups are being represented in magazines. And then you could technically end it right there, but I like to take it a step further and bring the whole class together and mix it up and take a more theoretical approach at race. And so I say, okay, group number 1, you only found 8 pictures of African Americans in this magazine. How did you know that they were African American? And usually at that point their eyes get really big and they're thinking, oh. And I ask them, what is race? How do we determine race? How do we categorize people in terms of race? What if people are multiracial? So I'll pick a picture and I'll say, how do you know that she's not Latina? How do you know that she's not part Asian American? What if these folks are multiracial? What were we doing by categorizing them? And it can generate a really interesting discussion on what is race and deconstructing that as its own category too, which can be enriching.